Hey, greetings, everyone. As promised, we have an incredible woman here today. And since it is San Jacinto Day, April the 21st, here in 2020, 184 years ago, in 18 minutes, Texas secured its independence. And so we're going to have a chat with Lee Spencer White. And Lee White is a seventh generation Texan whose fourth great grandfather, Gordon C. Jennings, died in defense of the Alamo. Over the past 20 years, Ms. White has founded the Alamo Defender Descendants Association and actively researched history across several states and Mexico. She is an active preservationist who was nominated for the governor's 2006 Texas Women's Hall of Fame Award. Lee has been interviewed hundreds of times by national newspapers such as the Chicago Tribune, Dallas Morning News about her historical research and preservation efforts. Additionally, she serves on the board of the former Texas Rangers Association. She is also the co-author of Last Soul Standing, a historical narrative about Joe, a slave owned by famed Alamo commander William Barrett Travis. Lee is also a favorite speaker among Texas historical organizations and has worked as a historical consultant for the History Channel, Derg Films, and the BBC. She resides in Fredericksburg with her husband Larry, and they have one daughter by the name of Sam. Lee White, thanks so much for joining us here this evening.
A pleasure.
Hey, last year it came to my attention some issues that were going on down in San Antonio with the Cenotaph. And a lot of folks maybe don't understand what the Cenotaph is, so let me give them a little background. Cenotaph comes from the Greek word kinos taphos, meaning empty tomb. It is a monument to a person or group of persons who are buried elsewhere. Now, when we think about what happened to the Alamo defenders, they were burned to death after they were massacred by Santa Anna. The cenotaph that is there at the Alamo was dedicated on 11 November of 1940, and of course it was commissioned at the 100th year anniversary of the Battle of the Alamo. So when we look at what is happening down in San Antonio with the cenotaph and with the Alamo, what is the grave concern? What is the big story that you see there?
What I see is a rewriting of history, especially diminishing the role of the Alamo defenders. When you are willing to move their empty tomb outside the fort they bled and died inside, I have a real issue with that, especially the fact that they haven't one good reason to move it. They're using many excuses, but it can be repaired on site inside the fort, the heart of the fort.
Now, it's interesting because you so graciously invited me to speak down in March on the day that the Alamo fell, there at the spot where William Barrett Travis was shot and killed, and read his letter there. And that was a humbling tribute for me because, being a graduate of the University of Tennessee, we have an incredible connection to this great state of Texas. And of course, that the Alamo, and I'm a former member of Congress like Mr. Crockett, and I got a chance to meet his family. But the thing is that here you have the cenotaph, which is right there inside of where the Alamo walls were, and they are looking back upon that building that they defended there, the mission. Why is it that, we have the Bureau, the General Land Office, and George P. Bush wanted to move it away from the site that it presently sits?
George P. Bush and the General Land Office want to move it because it will make them money. They're going to take it, basically throw it over the fortress walls, symbolically, and put it in front of the Menger Hotel. Why? Because they can have more room for bistro tables and people to swill whatever and eat their little croissants. That's why.
Now, that's interesting because this is obviously part of what I've read, some, grand world historical site, or some, making it into more of an entertainment area. And that kind of takes away from the historical significance. And you've been very outspoken about this. And what have been some of the ramifications or consequences for you speaking out about this? And you should be able to speak out since you're a direct descendant of one of the men that was killed there at the Alamo.
Yes, we spoke out, actually the first to sound the clarion call several years ago about the situation. I had gatherings. I've made sure that people heard about this issue. For the past 25 years, our organization has held a ceremony inside the Alamo Chapel and then later on the grounds of the Alamo. once we started speaking out about this issue, the CEO, Douglas McDonald, decided he would boot kick us out of the Alamo. Now he has some generic function. What is even more hurtful, he uses our exact program.
Now, this CEO, does he have a connection to the Alamo like you do and many others in the Alamo Descendants Association?
No, sir, he's a hired gun. He was brought in out of Ohio, and he's basically the watchdog at the Alamo for George P. Bush.
So it's amazing to me that here, you are a seventh generation Texan, and someone is brought in from Ohio to be the CEO of the Alamo, and he is disregarding and he is disrespecting the very people that are of a bloodline. And we're talking about, I got to meet some great Hispanic members who also trace their history back to the Alamo. So why do you think it is that your voices are not being heard, being cast aside?
Before I answer that, I would like to address that we represent the entire garrison, the men, women, children, survivors, and we have a huge Tejano membership in our organization. I can tell you that this CEO, Douglas McDonald, walked in, decided he would make as much money as he could, sterilize the entire site, and turn it into a Disney-esque site. You go through the gift shop, you buy your trinkets, they will herd you out a certain door. You can't come into the Alamo from any direction like it is currently. They're going to close it off, fence it off, must go through the gift shop. Then you can get your time ticket if you want to go into the Alamo Chapel.
Now, the interesting thing is the San Antonio City Council also supporting this endeavor, that venture?
Yes, because George P. Bush walked in and decided that he would ask the city council to move the Cenotaph.
Now, you talk about moving the Cenotaph, and there are some people out there who say, hey, look, this is no big deal. We're only talking about, maybe 500 feet, 600 feet. But as you said, what is the real significance of that Cenotaph, that empty tomb being moved for you as a direct descendant of the Alamo defenders?
It's the one place we can go. It's the one place we have that's on the site that we can go annually as a group, as a family, and say, right here is our headstone. This is our cemetery. This is what has been so important to the families. That's all we had. We gave our all in 1836. We had nothing. I think it's the least the state of Texas can do, the General Land Office can do, is to leave our headstone where it sits and include the families in all processes, and that we would be welcome on the ground we bought with our blood.
Now, one of the interesting things, we're supposed to be under this shutdown, shelter in place, forced isolation here in Texas, but you have brought to the forefront some interesting activity that's been going on around the Alamo and the Cenotaph, even during this shutdown period.
Well, we've continued mainly to work online with everything we're doing, but and as you probably know, that the Texas Historical Commission meetings will be on Zoom or be teleconference, and that's what we're really here today to ask, is for people to contact the Texas Historical Commission, because that does more right now in the strategies that we need to maintain and put forth, is to work with the Texas Historical Commission, convince them, show them Texans don't want this. They don't want to move the Cenotaph. When it comes to exhuming the bodies, do DNA testing. That's what's coming up this Saturday. There'll be a decision on exhumations, but mid-May will be the decision on the Cenotaph. And what we've asked people to do is contact the Texas Historical Commission. That's the first and foremost thing you need to do.
Now, but what I was alluding to is that, has there been some activity, some construction workers, or even any more digging during this shelter in place and lockdown period in and around the Alamo and the Cenotaph?
Absolutely. It's appalling. Let's just start with the shutdown. Supposedly, the city of San Antonio is concerned about their citizens. However, their workers are working and digging 3 feet apart with no masks. What's with that? Why are they continuing doing non-essential construction? Right now, they're moving the bandstand. They've moved Lady Bird Fountain. They're jacking up all the pavers, getting ready to do phase 1. So that way they think when the Texas Historical Commission gives them a green light, they're ready to roll. Now, the thing that's even more disturbing is everything is shut down and they continue the archaeological digs without the Alamo Defender Descendants being there. We can prove that we have defenders also buried there. Is everyone thinks that we were all burnt. Yes, the majority were burnt, but not all of them were burnt. We have 1840s reports from the U.S. Army where they went into the Alamo to turn it into a supply depot in 1846 and 49, and they found skeletons and partial skeletons. Well, lo and behold, December 2019, they found a coffin with only 2 femur bones in it, and they're large femur bones. So we're asking for DNA testing because currently we don't have a seat at the table.
Where's the status of that request for the DNA testing?
Well, we filed a lawsuit concerning that some time back, along with some other issues. But currently, they've just been rolling along and ignoring it because the Alamo Trust, George P. Bush, have set up a human remains protocol that's horrendous. They brought in 5 tribes from Oklahoma that they say have a connection culturally, not bloodline, and they've decided they don't want DNA testing. And they're the ones that are the monitors whenever a body is discovered, they're called. Even though we've continued to say, what about the Alamo Defender Descendants? So right now, because that particular tribe does not want DNA testing, they're saying we're not going to DNA test. And not only that, after we're through removing these bodies, we're going to dig a pit hole and make a common burial somewhere inside the church.
Now,
we're saying no.
Now, well, it's interesting to me. So we have a CEO of the Alamo that's coming in from Ohio. We are consulting with Indian tribes out of Oklahoma, but yet we have the people that are right here in the state of Texas that are descendants of those defenders who don't have a seat at the table, whose voices are not being heard. You know, how can the rest of Texas, this great state, and people that are Texans that are no longer living within Texas but still understand the importance of our history, how can they help you? How can they support you in this effort so that you can get back to having the seat at the table and maybe even having a CEO that is a descendant of an Alamo defender?
That would be fabulous. What people can do, and whether you live in Texas or not, whether you're a Texan or not, anywhere in the world, if you will email the Texas Historical Commission and make a note on there that this email should be distributed to all Texas Historical Commission commissioners, send that email to Esther, ESTHER.Brickley, BRICKLEY @THC.Texas, spelled out, .gov.
Is there a way that they can send any other type of, letters or maybe phone calls as well to the Texas Historical Commission?
Absolutely, and they can also telephone George P. Bush and tell them they're very upset and that they are excluding the bloodline who could prove they're the bloodline of the Alamo, and they're being excluded. And tell George P. Bush that this CEO, Douglas McDonald, is doing a horrible job. He's alienated everyone he's ever come in contact with. And again, it's all about money with him. He's contacting the local businesses to try to support him, telling them that they will lose money if they don't get this project going.
Here we are today, April the 21st of 2020, 184 years after that incredible 18-minute, let's call it woodshed whipping of Santa Anna at San Jacinto. You're an avowed and very regarded historian. What are your concerns that you see when it comes to history, not just here in the state of Texas, but all across the United States of America, and how it's being changed, revised, or even ignored?
I'm very concerned across all cultures, all histories, because I'll tell you, if you don't know where you came from, you don't understand your roots, you're adrift. And I think too many young people today in split homes, maybe they know daddy, maybe they don't, but if they can hang on to somebody did something in my past, I've got something good inside of me. It gives them the will to bootstrap themselves, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and go forth. So yes, I think history is terribly important. People need to know bad times have come before. this isn't the first time we've had a pandemic. This isn't the first time we've had tyrants try to take over our government. And you know what? This again will repeat that a desperate few, like fought at San Jacinto, common citizen soldiers, desperate, tired, hungry, don't know where their family is, had friends die in Goliad and die in Alamo. And I guarantee you, what men like that can do in 18 minutes changes the world, and they did.
So as we get ready to wrap up this little segment, this interview, what are your solutions to this? I mean, we've talked about the issues, we talked about the problems. What would Lee Spencer White like to see happen so that we can preserve the Alamo, its history? We can once again regard our Descendants Association. What's some of your solutions to this?
Well, I think we can all agree that we need to keep the buildings up. We need to restore the buildings naturally. Museum would be great. Don't fence out the citizenry out of the plaza, because that's been historic. It's where they've always gone. Let them come and go inside the plaza at will. It's okay to make money. I understand that you need to keep the lights on, but you don't need to just put layer upon layer upon layer of bureaucrats and new jobs and jobs that you really don't need. And what you have to do, then you have to actually do all sorts of things to make money. And that's what they're doing. You know, every cheap and tawdry thing that they can do, that's what they're doing to raise funds. So if it were up to me, I would step back, keep it real, keep it natural, educate people, instill a sense of pride, and keep the Alamo, which is a symbol of liberty. It is the beacon of liberty for Texas and has spread across the world.
Well, I will tell you that the Alamo is special to me, you know, being born and raised in Georgia, which was the same place that old Jim Bowie was born in. And like I said, being a graduate of the University of Tennessee and a former member of Congress like that guy, Davy Crockett. So Lee Spencer White, how can people get in touch with you and make sure that they can be a part of your team to support your efforts?
I would love for anyone to contact me, and they can contact me through my email, Alamo, ALAMO .LEE @yahoo.com. They can also find me on Facebook, Lee Spencer White. They can also find our Alamo Descendants Association on our website or on Facebook.
Well,
contact me. I need help. You know, I feel like I'm Travis saying, listen, we're down to our last man, enemy at the wall. Please come and help me.
And it should not be that way in the great state of Texas. And so that's why I'm so honored that you would take time out of your busy schedule to spend some moments here and help to rally not just the people here in Texas, but as Travis said, all Americans in the world. So thank you very much, Lee, and God bless you and God keep you. Lee Spencer White, who is part of the Alamo Descendants Association, standing up and fighting for the Alamo, for the Cenotaph, for our history. God bless. Thanks, Lee.
God bless you, sir. Thank you.